Come on, somebody get on there.
Welcome to the new Hypeman Show Live with your host and professional crappie angler, Mr. Zeke Anderson. Hey, we're talking all things crappie, including tournaments, baits, electronics, tips, tricks, and more. The Hypeman Show Live is brought to you by none other than the Bass Tank. And now, here's the hype man himself, Mr. Zeke Anderson.
What's going on, folks? Zeke here. Thank you guys for jumping on. Man, real quick, first want to start off thanking the show sponsors. We got the Bass Tank. Man, these guys have sponsored Dylan and I for the past couple of years out on the trails. Big shout out to them. If you guys are looking for electronics, you know where to go. Hit me up. Also, Beat Down Outdoor Products, a new sponsor for Dylan and I this year. If you guys are looking for mounts, the best mounts, sturdiest mounts on the market, give us a call at the Bass Tank. We do carry their products. Awesome mounts. Huckabee rods, man, been with those guys for 3 years now. Big supporters of myself and Dylan, and Slab Syndicate hair jigs. So, guys, we appreciate all of them for supporting the show, supporting us as anglers. And but man, without further ado, weird time. It's 1 o'clock. You can see I'm at home. I'm in Oklahoma. It's where the Bass Tank World headquarters is, where I work. We got 6 or so inches of snow, and in Oklahoma, when we get snow, everything kind of shuts down. So we are working through it, answering the phones from home, taking care of things. So wanted to take advantage of a snow day kind of across the South and go live to talk about something that we are just getting absolutely blown up about. And that is the newest Garmin update. And joining me today is one of the owners of the Bass Tank, half owner of the Bass Tank, Scott, the mad scientist, Palmer, as we call him. Scott, thanks for jumping on here with me, man. I know we've all been getting blown up here as of late about this new update.
Yeah.
And you had time. You had some time to get on the water with it. I know with the GPS map series unit, and did an awesome YouTube video going very in depth about the update. But wanted to have Scott on here to talk about it, answer your guys' questions about it. We are getting a lot of different questions and a lot of different feedback on it. So there's the YouTube video right there. You guys can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't already. Over 10,000 views in just a couple days, talking about this new Garmin update. So let's dive into it. Scott, first of all, what is, and I'm going to put you on the spot a few times during this show. Tell us the actual numbers of the update. I know the Echo map, I think, is 19.10, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm proud of you. Yeah, I'm proud of you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So the GPS map is 26.1. And Livescope is 2.57, and that's a minor update. It was 2.55, and so it's just a minor revision at that point. But those are the latest and greatest updates, that we're going to be discussing. And but the GPS map, we spent, I think we were on the water for over 4 hours, and really all I was doing was kind of hitting the highlights. I mean, we could have been there another 4 hours, quite frankly. There was so much. But we realized that video had gotten so long that I think it ended up being like 37 minutes, which is a long YouTube video in all aspects. And I remember when I got done, I was like, there's still more I need to cover. But at some point, you've got to cut it off and section it up, and because I did a supplemental, just the next day, talking about it, a few of the other features that I was like, guys really need to know these. These are very important, so. But the GPS map family, that update was really big. That was a user interface change. That's kind of what jumped out at me. That's why I want to put. I personally run the GPS maps, and I wanted to get it on my boat before we start getting all these questions. And just from the views, you can see. I mean, we've had that video's been out for less than a week, I guess, and we've already had over 10,000 views on it. So people are clearly wanting information on it. So that's why I want to jump on here with you today. So thanks for having me on the Hypeman show. I don't get to do this a whole lot.
Scott is kind of our behind the scenes guy, keeping us all in the loop with the tech side of things. If one of you guys calls me or Austin and has a question that we can't answer, we're running to Scott or to Darren, our lead technician over there. And Darren does a very good job as well, staying on top of this stuff.
Absolutely.
So we know some.
Yeah, you guys do. I mean, you guys do a really good job, for sure. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, it's tough for you guys to keep up with all this because you're trying to take care of the customers on the front end. And so that is, we work well as a team like that. Darren does a phenomenal job as well of helping keep things off of me as well, so I can focus on what I need to. So it goes hand in hand, as you very well know. So it takes a whole team to make this thing happen.
It takes a community, man. I mean, we're lucky to all have different skill sets and bring different things to the table, and be able to help each other out when needs be. So, Scott, first off, let me yell at some of these guys that are saying hi real quick.
Okay.
Jim Perry, thanks for jumping on. Bob Denon, awesome guy, crappie fisherman, came down, drove hours and hours to get here for his install. Appreciate you, Bob, and the support. Shane Fields is on here. What's up, Shane? Just saw Shane yesterday morning at a unfortunate circumstance. At actually my tournament partner Dylan Hackler's father passed away, Harold Hackler, and ran to Shane at his funeral. So was glad to see him there and supporting our friend Dylan.
Absolutely.
Ernie Ode, what's going on, man? Brian Baker, dude, thanks for jumping on, guys. Scott, what was when you first got on the water with the update? What jumped out to you first?
So there's two different ways to attack this, and so just briefly, the Echo map was basically updated to give control, to have the interface of the new Lifescope update. So that's kind of its own thing. Then you've got the GPS map over here that was a complete overhaul. So when I first powered up my units, that's the first thing I was going to see was, where did all my buttons go? Where did everything go that I was used to being in a certain place? And there was some apprehension, because we're creatures of habit and we got used to it. Guys get used to pushing buttons and going fast. And now we've kind of got to reteach ourselves. But I will tell you that it didn't take me real long to kind of understand what they were doing and say, I like this, and really get myself to be, a little bit better acquainted, I guess, if you will, with the system. And I really felt like the overall feel for and specifically the GPS maps, the overall feel just had a cleaner feel to it. I have my preferences. I could go into what create the software, how Scott wants it. And so there's a few minor things I would change just as far as locations, but they're nothing that really, before long, I'm going to even forget that I even had those, requests, I guess, if you will. But what I really liked was the homepage and being able to cycle through my views from like literally left and right without having to hit the favorites and then go select it from that standpoint, So I'm really excited about it. I noticed that as I was going around, I got to pushing buttons too fast while we were filming, and Shannon, our video guy, said, Scott, slow down, and which is a habit I have anyway, but I was able to navigate so fast that I was outrunning anything that anybody would be able to, video production wise wouldn't have gone well. So that was kind of an aha moment of, man, you can really cycle through these things quickly. So I'm excited. They opened up a couple features that some of the guys, I like tinkering, whether it's Livescope, whether it's my 2D, whether it's my side and clear view. I like tinkering to try to get that best image I possibly can. And Garmin opened up some of those features to us as well. So, I'm curious to see if I think this is maybe a gateway update, and I may be wrong. This is completely speculation on my part, but I feel like this is a gateway to maybe opening up a few more little um, incremental updates that with some different settings that they may be working on from that standpoint. I could totally see that happening. Again, that's a complete speculation on my part, but I could definitely see that because just what they did with the 2D. I mean, I could have done a whole video just on the 2D, and man, I'm excited. I mean, I spent probably 15 to 30 minutes tops just kind of tweaking my 2D, and I had some of the best 2D images. That's traditional sonar. Best images I'd ever seen. I was getting bottom separation with fish that I'd never seen before. I mean, you normally are able to see fish on the bottom with 2D, but I was able to separate the bottom. I could really see how those fish were and how big they were. And that was just very briefly. So that was the initial impression. I know that's a big impression, but you very well know sometimes I get too far off in the weeds. But then I got with Livescope. And so the first thing I did was I ran that new color limit setting all the way to the top, like a lot of people do. And boy, did it clean up the background noise, if you will. But it makes it unfishable, quite frankly. And I say that from a standpoint, you're not going to run anything on 100. We don't do anything one way or the other except maybe screen brightness. Your gain doesn't run at 100. Your colored gain doesn't run at 100. But so that's an extreme case. But I just kind of wanted to show it. So. One of the first things I did, I turned my noise reject off because I wanted it to be as cluttery as possible, and to see what that color limit might tweak. And I really feel like we're going to have a balance where a little bit of color limit, maybe run my gain a little bit hotter, maybe play with that noise reject. I'm still playing with that. I have not found that magic setting yet, that magic combination, but I think I'm going to enjoy it because I think you can really get this thing dialed in. And I proved it because, don't tell anybody, but Monday evening before this cold front snuck in, I had about an hour and I snuck out there and I was able to catch a fish.
You like to tinker from time to time.
Yes, I do. You should see what's sitting on my kitchen counter right now. I'm working on a little project, and I've got wires and everything else just strewn about. So people don't need to come into my house.
I love it. That's what we need. It's what we need you for, amongst other things. But we appreciate the fact that you get out there and want to play with this stuff. And so I'm going to take a small step back here and explain a little bit in layman's terms, if you will, what Scott's talking about. And Anthony, thanks for jumping on here, man. Anthony Gangone's on here. Joe Harris, Brandon Thomas, thank you guys for jumping on. Yeah, I know. He does like to tinker. But so guys, with the GPS map series of units, the update actually changes the operating system. And Scott, always correct me if I'm wrong here, but it actually changes the whole operating system. So your layout's going to look different once you do this update.
I want to be careful using the term operating system. That probably, just being from a technical standpoint, I can't say that it truly turned the operating system, but the user interface. So the prettiness of it. The operating system is kind of behind the scenes. That would be like saying, I upgraded from Windows 10 to 11. The layout's going to change, but the operating system may not have changed. So, but again, most people are going to say, okay, that makes sense. But from a pure technical standpoint, that the world I live in, it's just a layout change and user interface.
Gotcha. User interface change. See, guys, to me, user interface and operating system might as well be the same thing to a certain extent. But thank you, Scott. User interface change. So the layout of your screen is going to be a little bit different in a good way from what I understand. I run Echo Map units, okay, and installed a new update. Scott actually came to my house late one night last week and installed the update for me because he knew I was going to the water last Saturday and wanted to check it out. So it does not affect the Echo Map units in the same way as far as the user interface side of things. but it definitely does still give you that color limit option that a lot of people are looking for. So I went out last Saturday with a buddy of mine that just jumped on here, Trey Gaines, came in town and stayed with me for the weekend. We went fishing on Saturday. He hadn't done the update yet, and I had. And we were crappie fishing, obviously. And guys, I'll be honest, right off the bat, I had mixed feelings about it. It took me, like Scott was saying, we are still trying to get the settings fully dialed in on this. We were chasing open water fish in the river channel, typical wintertime crappie fishing, suspended, roaming fish or floaters, as we like to call them, and ended up catching a limit of 30 crappie in about 4 hours. So it was a really good day of fishing. But more importantly, I was trying to play with these new settings. So bear with us on that. Since day one, we have had recommended, bass tank settings. We've got a great video out there that John did with the top 10 Garmin Lifescope settings on our YouTube channel. It's on Wired to Fish's YouTube channel as well. And that has, really helped people out a lot. So bear with us with this new update. Like with what Scott was saying, we are still tinkering with the appropriate settings. I know a lot of you guys saw a video that Eric Cagle did. There's me and Trey's catch from Saturday. That my buddy Trey Gaines right there. We filled coolers up out there with the whole Oklahoma board club, the board of directors for the Oklahoma Crappie Club, and had a great day of fishing. But we are constantly trying to tweak these things to get the best image clarity that we can. And what I found when I turned color limit all the way up and cranked my gain way up, like a video that Eric Cagle did the day after this update came out, for open water fish, it definitely cleared the screen up, took that background clutter out of the screen like everybody wants. But when I started looking at fish on structure, it got a little tougher. And I think I was running my settings probably a little too hot, a little too high, to really see the separation between a tree and a fish. We were in an area with a lot of standing timber. So we were, still got to play with it some. I'm going to get Scott on my boat here at some point to go catch some crappie and help dial in the Echo Map unit settings. Scott, I've got a question for you that I've been getting. A lot of guys are still running the 93 SD Plus,
right? Not
the UHD. And it's my understanding that this new color limit setting specifically is not going to work on the 93 SV Plus. Is that correct?
That's correct. The 93 SV Plus has basically reached its end of life cycle. So it's no longer supported, meaning there's no more software updates. And it's actually been that way for well over a year. I believe it was the new vivid color palettes that Garmin released, not this past October, but what would that be? Where were it? So 2022. So in 2020, when Garmin released that vivid color palette, that's where we outran. That was the update, the first update that had come out, that the 93 SV Plus was no longer supported. So if you've got a Plus unit, unfortunately, that's not going to you're not going to have access to this. You're also missing out on the vivid color palettes, which I really love. So that's a whole other conversation. We did a video on that as well. But so yeah, it's time to upgrade if you want those features. If not, you just keep going on. There's Livescope is still really, really good, just as is, even before this update, so it's a phenomenal technology no matter how you slice it. I don't care if you've got one that's brand new, first gen ever. It was really cool. You think of all the fish we caught that first, when it first came out, before any updates were happening. And I kind of like to see a progression, a timeline of progression to see all the different settings that happen with different pictures, because if I may say, there's a day when there's some pollen in the water. In the spring we're going to start having pollen and a lot of clutter. I'd like to see what that looked like way back. And I may complain about it, but then I look at it what it was back before. And I'm like, oh, well, this is actually really good. So I've personally never had a chance where, man, I just can't fish.
Sure. You brought something up there that is a hot topic every year. That I'd like to touch on briefly. You talked about pollen in the water.
Right.
Every spring, I want to say, when the pollen starts falling, the phone starts ringing and everybody starts asking about, why is my screen so cluttered? It's never looked like this before. Scott, talk to me a little bit about the pollen in the water having the effect and why that happens with Livescope.
Yeah. So think about it from a standpoint of what Lifescope is doing, right? It's going out there sending a signal, just like the general sonar. It's sending a signal, bouncing off, and getting a return based on that shadow. Well, Livescope is doing that very, very quickly, and the way the technology is working, it's trying to pick up everything in the water. It has to, because it's in real time. Take for example, you can see current with your Livescope transducer. I've actually found underwater springs on a lake where they're feeding a lake using my Livescope transducer. Maybe I picked it up on my side view and there was, I don't know, what is that? There was a weird anomaly. Swing back around, I can literally see the water moving through it. And so when something is that sensitive, we're talking about little bubbles at that point. Now pollen is smaller than that, but go look at your car. You're right. You come out and your car is yellow. It's got that yellow tint. So we're not talking about little, sand and, debris like that, because we fish muddy lakes here in Oklahoma and have no real problem. Yeah, there may be a little bit more of a dirtier screen in those lakes, but pollen is just physically bigger than mud is, the way it congregates. And so the other thing to remember, and this is something that I learned the hard way as well, is cleaning the face of the Livescope transducer. If I start having that really bad screen, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it. And I tell people, if you're going to clean it, if you would use the cleaner on a very expensive pair of sunglasses, it's probably safe to use on the lenses of those. That's kind of my general rule of thumb. And now, I don't want to say that in a pinch I'm going to use something less appropriate, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So, but cleaning that lens has been a big factor. And then going down the road, that's where the Guardian is actually a big factor in that as well. It's not just about trying to keep rocks and things like that off of it. We're in Oklahoma, summertime, springtime, fall. We have bugs. I have seen just bugs just plastered all over it. If I'm not cleaning those things off constantly, that's going to affect it, because anything that basically makes that beam shoot off, right, and not have come back clean on itself is going to give me an error, or when I say an error, meaning a fuzzier picture. So I want to keep that face of that transducer as clean as I possibly can. I do see where this color limit could play with this pollen. Again, we say it all the time. Zeke, we get this question asked a lot. You more than me, because you talk to people every day. What is that? What is the setting I need to put? Give me a number. And I can give you a number to start with. You can give them a number to start with. But we're always adjusting. I'll be on one body of water in the morning, and I'll adjust my settings through the course of the day, just from the sun getting out. And that light penetration changes how things are reflecting on in the water. So we may set the color limit. I may say, hey, these are the settings. Boom. Well, then we add some pollen in here, and I may have to adjust this way. So it's always a constant adjusting game from that standpoint. I wish there was a magic universal setting and just go about life. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
If you want to get the best picture with it, then yes, that's why I love Lifescope and Garmin, because they give us that latitude to adjust all these settings to try to dial in and get see the most detail. It may not be the cleanest background, but it is definitely going to give you the most detail. There's a great YouTube video out there that Johnny Schultz did, Fish the Moment, and something we partnered with him on side by side comparison with the 3 live sonars out now. And guys, we use Livescope. We sell all these products and have good partners with all good relationships with all these companies, and they all make a quality product. But if you really want to see the difference, to decide what you need for yourself and your own fishing style, check out Fish the Moment, Johnny Schultz's video of the 3 different side-by-side comparisons with Humminbird's Mega Live, Garmin Livescope, and Lowrance Active Target. It's the only video I've seen of its kind. And Johnny is like Scott. He's a wizard with this stuff, dialing in settings and things like that. So there's a lot of useful information on his YouTube channel as well. Scott, we got a question here from Dustin McDaniel, a good buddy of mine. He was on the show just a couple weeks ago. He said, was it worth it? He's asking the $1 million question. Was it worth it? Did you feel more successful with the new update?
So I'm going to be completely transparent at this time. So if I'm running GPS maps, take Livescope out of the equation, because this is a 2-part. So take Livescope out of the equation, GPS map standalone, absolutely. Like, I really, really like the overall update for the GPS map family. Phenomenal update. So now let's include the Livescope. If I'm just looking at it from a Livescope standpoint, I don't know yet. And the reason why I say that is because I don't fully have it tweaked in, but I see the potential there. You know, I think the, how do I say this? Like, I think everyone thought, hey, this is it. We can just run this thing up here and boom, we've got this crystal clear background. We still get to keep the detail. And it's not that. You know, one thing I personally noticed was I just put my settings back the way I had them pre-update, and my picture was just as good as ever. You know, it wasn't like the update messed up my image from anything that I saw. You know, something that to make mention is they also added the Ghost Reject Auto feature. So the Ghost Reject setting that they released with a previous update, they have it for auto now. So you can run that thing in auto, which I don't run anything in auto. So I play with it. I really didn't notice a difference, you know, with the auto. You know, I typically run my Ghost Reject on low or off anyway. You know, I've just kind of learned how that works. So, so I didn't notice a big change there. But again, being able to go back to what my normal settings were, you know, pre-update, color limit completely off, Ghost Reject on off or low, I just went and fished. And I didn't say, oh man, they changed the gain table or they changed this, they changed that. I was able just to fish the way I was. So I feel like it was worth it, but at the same time, I want to be just a little bit hesitant and just saying, guys, you have to do this today from the standpoint of I want to tweak the settings some more, because I do see that potential of being there. But you know, I think I ended up with my color limit. You know, I played at like 15, 25, and 35%, running my gain up around 79%. Now, right now I'm a bass fisherman. You know, I'm you crappie guys call us ditch pickle, you know, fishermen, but I'm making casts out there that 85 feet. You know, I'm finding that I'm looking for that target at 85 feet. And I may make a cast beyond that even just to get my bait down. And what I noticed was 0 to 30 feet, where most of you crappie guys kind of live your life, I guess, if that's a fair statement. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I feel. If I made my pre-update screen, you know, whatever that image was, if I made my 30 to 60 look like that using the new settings, what would happen is my 0 to 30, I would lose just a little bit. You know, I was throwing like, say, an A-rig or a jerk bait, and it would just reduce that profile a little bit. However, I really didn't care about that, because if I get a bass that close to the boat, a lot of times they're just following and they're never going to eat it anyway. So when I was out there searching and making those long casts, I really liked it for that. So I could really see, especially for bass guys, this being worth it to get that longer range. But the verdict is still somewhere out. So I would lean more towards, yes, it is worth it, but I don't want to, you know, say absolutely go do it. You know, what I'm telling, you know, some close friends and people in general is, if you like your settings right now, if you've got a good image, let's give it a week or two. You know, let me get on the water. Let us continue to get on the water, because, you know, we kind of approach it as, let us go break it. Let us go mess up our system, if you will, if something's going to get messed up. so customers don't have that problem. Instead of just saying, yeah, do this, let us go mess with our system. That's I try to cause myself trouble on the water. You do too. So customers don't have to go through that same process. And updates are no thing. Every update that comes out, guess what? It's going to my units because I need to know what my customers are going to run into, what our customers, I should say, is going to run into. And I just don't have a perfect answer yet on this one. I don't see their problem, but at the same time, I don't see this. We're like, oh my gosh, you're never going to catch a fish again if you don't do this update. I know that's the long way around that answer. It may not exactly be what people are looking for, but I do feel like let's give it a little bit of runtime. Let's give it a week or two, and kind of see what's gonna happen from that.
I totally agree with you. And to mirror what Scott said, we try to do these updates as soon as they're available and hit the water with them as quick as we can, so we can give the appropriate feedback. And I mean, we all we want to do is try to increase people's catch rate on the water. That's we're in the business of fun. We're lucky to get to do what we do. So give us a chance to get out there and spend some more time with it and try to get these settings dialed in again that's going to give you the best, clearest picture that you possibly can. And what I tell every customer that calls asking about, updates and should I do this, should I do that is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it yet.
Right.
Sometimes things are brand new and change is always a little scary. And change takes figuring out. So this is one of the bigger changes that we've seen over the past 3 years of Livescope being around. And so we are definitely still playing with it, but fully also see the advantages to it. So, from a crappie guy standpoint, like Scott said, we live our life ranged out 30 foot for the most part. I know a lot of guys in other states, Mississippi in particular, cast a lot to fish and range out, 50, 60 feet. We're going to a tournament at Lake D'Arbonne at the later this month that will more than likely be ranged out in that 50 to 60 foot range, casting to fish. So, and searching to locate new fish. So I'm anxious to try it out on that lake in a different state in Louisiana. Now, I just lost my train of thought. I had something good, Scott. I had something good. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Let me jump into some of these comments here. Dustin, thank you for that question. It's a great question. Matt England, man, thanks for getting on. Happy birthday yesterday, I believe, and congrats on your personal best. Matt came down to Oklahoma and caught his personal best with the old Robert Robinson a couple weeks ago. Let's see. Randall Barger, love it. Livescope's awesome. New update is awesome. Glad you're liking it, man. Chris Kaufman, what's going on, dude? Looking forward to seeing you here in a few weeks at D'Arbonne. Doug Owens, thanks for jumping on here, Doug. Good to see you last Saturday on the water. Said never thought of cleaning the transducer, the lenses. And let's touch on that again really quick, just to be clear what Scott was talking about. There's 3 steps on the LVS 32 Livescope transducer, and the lenses are what is facing the road as you're traveling. Okay, it's pretty obvious what they are, and very important to keep those lenses clean. That's why we came out with the product we did, the Livescope Guardian, the transducer cover. It's not only to prevent it from damage, but also to keep it clean as you're traveling. A lot of dirt roads and gravel roads that we drive down going to our fishing holes. So it keeps it clean and protects it. And like Scott said, we've got a major bug problem in Oklahoma. So it keeps those bugs from getting squashed on your lenses. Reggie Donner is on here. What's going on, Reggie? He's asking what solution is recommended to clean the transducer with. Scott's a little bit muffled, man. Sorry about that. Hope you guys can all understand him. We don't have a solution currently that we just recommend, but like Scott said, if you're going to clean your $200 Costas or Oakleys, with a cleaner, that is going to be perfectly suitable. And a microfiber cloth, same thing you would use to clean your screens with. I know there's a product from Mad Fishing out there. He makes a graph cleaner that's ammonia free that works really well. And that is actually what I use to clean my transducer lenses with. So there's a lot of different products out there that'll do that.
You just don't want something that's too aggressive. That's the big deal. You're not trying to, because that material is potted, which means it's kind of a rubbery silicone. It's kind of a loose. You don't want anything that's going to start eating into that. That's the big deal, And your expensive sunglasses are going to have a film on them, that's a protective film or maybe changed into polarized, non-polarized. We don't want anything that's going to eat that off. So that's why I say expensive sunglasses, okay for Livescope. That's been my experience.
Gotcha.
Can you hear me better now, by the way?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. All right.
You're good. Shane McNair, appreciate you. It's a good tip about keeping the transducer clean. Shane Fields, this is for you, Scott. He's saying, let's go fish.
All right.
He's ready to go fish with you.
Listen, I love fishing in the snow. I love fishing in the snow. I really do. Anyone who follows me, I just beg for these snow days. Now,
brutal.
I didn't this time because it wasn't snow, it was sleet that started, and that hurts. And I'm talking about that nice snow. We're in highland reservoirs here in Oklahoma, and so our fish don't see snow that often. And I have a theory that it's something to do with light, refraction. The fish know they're going to be miserable. I don't know, but I've had some absolutely smash fest, phenomenal days that first day it starts snowing. Now, the second day after it snowed, yeah, you're just standing in the cold making casts. You can still catch them, but it's not nearly as gangbusters. So, but I didn't get to go this time. It was too windy. The snow started too late. It is what it is. So I figured I would stay and work.
And it's about 14 degrees.
Yeah, I actually had
crappie fisherman eyelets freeze up.
Well, I actually made a YouTube video forever ago, and it's funny because I think the air temp, I believe I reported it was like 14 or 15 degrees, but the water temp was still 43 degrees. And so that's the thing. Remember, if we're cold, whatever, it's all about that water temp, And but here I am. I'm obviously the only boat in the parking lot. There was like 6 inches of snow on the ground. I get my boat in the water. I launch. I'm out here fishing in the middle of the lake, and there's a highway that runs around this lake. And the car stopped. I see the window roll down. Camera phone click. I was internet famous, and I didn't even realize it. Someone was like, "What is this idiot out here doing?" They couldn't believe someone would be that stupid. I am that stupid apparently. So, but. No, I don't think any fisherman claim. Yes, sir.
Tony, our Garmin reps is on. He brought up a really good point. He said, "Don't forget Garmin just released all new cartography too. Can't wait to see the new mapping once I get on the water." So, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, I was going to bring that up. So Garmin has, going back, Garmin bought Navionics, and so they've overlaid some of the Navionics data on it. Well, Garmin has done what Garmin does in the background. They're always working on something new, better, And so they've released this really big cartography upgrade. And what's going to happen is we've got our Lakeview Ultra and West cards with the relief shading and auto guidance and things like that. Well, this new feature, they're going to break it down into regions a little bit tighter instead of just east and west. It's going to be north and south and west. And what they're going to do is they're going to allow you to, with the correct cards, I guess, if you will, you're going to get daily updates. Now, what I can dive way deep in it. We're going to do a video specifically on this because there's a lot to it. But on the high notes are better performance of the loading of the maps, because you're going to get to kind of pick and choose what lakes you're downloading with some of that higher end relief shading data, instead of having to load everything that's west of the Mississippi on your unit. It's just going to load the lakes you fish that you download, which is really cool. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I think once guys get used to it and start doing it, I think they're really going to like it because your unit's going to run faster. The data is better. they've changed some of the color palettes. So whether you run a Lowrance or a Garmin, you can use that same look and feel if you want. And so some of the guys that were Lowrance guys that are like, man, I really like that Lowrance mapping, they're going to be able to feel it on the Garmin. But it's going to look basically the same on both of those type of units as well. So so I'm excited about it. We got, they just released, they announced it a couple weeks ago. They released it for shipment, I think last week. I've got some cards sitting there at the shop, and then it snowed on us. So I still don't have my hands on one, even though I know it's sitting there at the shop waiting on me. So hopefully the snow can get out of here. I can get my hands on it, and we'll do a really in-depth video on the new features of it, because I am excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool.
So stay tuned, guys. Scott will do an in-depth video on the cartography changes, the mapping changes. The main thing I just heard from that is you don't have to bog down your units downloading the whole country in maps. You can kind of pick and choose, the lakes that you fish specifically, and keep that memory space open on your units. So
yeah, I mean, your normal contour lake maps, when you put the card in there, are going to be there. It's that higher detail stuff that you're going to get to pick and choose. That is where it really takes the processing time. Like the relief shading is a phenomenal map. I love it. I use it a lot with my Active Captain app on my phone and on my unit. Well, if I've downloaded everything in the South, for example, it's going to take a while to load every one of those lakes, because every time we go to, we just zoom in and out, it's got to go re-access that file and then reload that data for that. Well, if I'm not having to go through a bunch of different files, it just makes it faster. So super excited about that.
Gotcha. So cool updates there with the mapping, guys. Stay tuned. We'll do some more videos there. Jerry Grand, thanks for getting on, man. Weather's about the same as you've got in Choctaw. We've got 6 or so inches of snow and more coming. Mark Kaiser, what's going on? Anthony, great question. Appreciate you jumping on as usual. Randy Eater, and I apologize if I butchered your last name there, Randy. Does it really make a difference going from 9-inch to 12-inch screen? If so, which?
Guys, I don't know if I'm still here. I think Zeke just had a technical difficulty. So I think we were answering a question on whether or not the 9 or 10-inch screen or the 12-inch screen, I believe is what he was trying to say. Does it really matter? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Think of it, if I was sitting here and perfectly still, you'd be able to pick out the detail of everything in this picture that you would see. And so you could do it on a 9-inch screen, you could do it on a 12-inch screen. It'd be really easy. But as I'm moving around and I get further and further away, you're not going to be able to pick out that detail as much on a smaller screen, but you blow that up on a big screen and those details pop. So think about the average person is roughly 6 foot tall. And even with a unit up, the subtleties stick out more so than on a 12-inch unit versus a 9-inch unit and a 10. I would say if I was going to go from a 9 and upgrade, I would jump to the 12. We tell people to buy the biggest screen they can afford, and we're not trying to upsell you. That's purely coming from a fisherman standpoint. So that would be our take. But the 1222 is probably by far our best seller. It's a non-touch unit, but it is a phenomenal unit for dedicated Livescope. But if you're looking to upgrade your entire system, there's other features out there that run sonar and touchscreens and whatnot. But that's where you give Zeke or my guy Austin a call, and they can definitely set you up and walk you through your application. That's probably the best thing. So I'm trying to see if I can find, with Zeke dropping off here, I don't know if I can find any more comments because I'm not seeing who's all on here because, well, Zeke was having me on. So, guys, I think we probably ought to end just because I can't see anybody what they might be saying. So, apologize for the technical difficulties. If you guys make comments on this post, we'll try to get back to them. And as always, you guys know how to reach the Bass Tank and give us a call. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. And I guess we'll jump off here.